Okay, so here I am over in my squashed DIY corner, because this is a kit. You can't just buy the thing that we need. We have to build it. Now, when I first looked into this a few weeks ago, all you could buy was the Expert Sleepers PCB. So this is provided by Expert Sleepers in order to accomplish exactly this. But that was all you could get. There you go. It's under there like that. I mean, it's not very exciting. There's not a whole lot going on. And so what else do you need? Well, you need a screen and some other bits and pieces, and you had to source those yourself. So you go searching away on the ModWiggler website, which the forum over on ModWiggler actually forms the support system for Expert Sleepers. But it's very, very good, and there's people on there who know exactly what they're talking about, as well as Oz from Expert Sleepers. He's on there very regularly, and so you can get the support that you need. And so searching through that forum, I was able to find the screen that I needed to order and the other bits and pieces. So I'm enormously grateful to the people on there for enabling me to do that. So I ordered a screen from China, and it got its way over here nice and slowly and has turned up, and a few other bits and pieces as well. Now, just like days after this all finally arrived, Thonk decided to put together a full kit. Now that's brilliant, except for me having to go to all that trouble, and then didn't actually have to in the end, because I could have just got the kit had I waited that tiny bit longer. But hey, there we go. So you can get the kit from thonk.co.uk. If not, I will try to remember to post the part number of the screen in the description somewhere, so that you can find it if you're not in the UK and don't want to buy from Thonk. But also this means that Thonk have a build guide, which is going to be very, very useful, although honestly it looks terribly, terribly simple, which is what we like. It's what we like. So let's go through the parts that we have. And I've never seen anyone else do a video on this build, so I thought this might be useful if I just do it in real time, no skipping any bits, and just get it done. So this appears to be the screen, this little fella here. For some reason I thought that was going to be much taller, but no, this appears to be it. I hope. Is this what it looks like? Is this what theirs look like? Yeah, okay, no, it is what it looks like. There, so yeah, all right, okay, no problem. You can't see what I'm looking at because my camera's in the way, but it is the right thing. Good. So screen, PCB, these are going to go together like that, and so in order to make that happen, I'm going to need something in between. So I've got here some cables. These are what connect the screen to the disting, which are these things here. I don't think I need them all, but I got a pack of so many, and I got these from RSS, funnily enough, from Radio Spares. Radio Spares, is that RSS? Yeah, whatever. That kind of place. So I'm going to be using those. I also got this header. Now I probably had a whole bunch of headers I could have used knocking around from other projects, but I thought I would order the right thing. So hopefully this is the right thing. And then I've got this, which is the socket for it, which needs to be surface mount, because this is surface mount here, and so this also needs to be surface mount. There's no point having a through hole one. That ain't going to work. So that's going to be interesting in of itself in how we accomplish that little bit of soldering. So we've got a thing that's going to plug into that. And we've got, maybe I don't need that one. Maybe that's completely irrelevant. Could be. I mean, it's possible that you can get the screen without this header on. I think that's probably what I went for there. So it looks like I've got an unnecessary header. Oh, thank you. Cockerel's awake. That's good. So I don't think I'm going to use that, which is going to make this build a little bit easier. Really, it's just about putting this thing onto the PCB. And that's more or less it. Oh no, well maybe I need it for this. I mean, I'm going to need something to go on there. So maybe I can still cut off a bit of this to go here. Maybe that's a plan. Maybe that's what I bought this for, and it's only available in this sort of size. I don't know, do I? I'm just making stuff up. Just trying to make it all kind of make some kind of sense from someone who doesn't really know what they're doing. So let's have a look, see what the build thing says. First step is securing the female header. We're still calling it that. To the board. 16-pin header is supplied as part of this kit's 8 pins on either side, but the footprint has 12 solder pads. Ensure there are 4 empty pads left on the right hand side. Oh, well, in the kit from Thonk, if you're building from that one, they're actually providing a smaller one of these because you don't actually need all of the bits soldered, because look, you can see that there's stuff here that's not actually being used. So it's only that they've decided to use a slightly smaller one, you know, saving a couple of pennies. So that's what that's about. But for me, as I bought this myself, I've got the full 20 pins, and I'm going to solder all of those. So it's suggesting you first put a small amount of solder on one of the corner pads, then place the header into correct position, reflowing the solder to one corner. Next, solder the 7-pin male header so the pins face out the back. Okay, so basically what we've got to do is put some solder on, put this on, see whether it sticks, and go with that. So the plan is to put some solder on a leg and then put this on, reflow the solder, see what happens. So that's the plan. So I've got me soldering iron, I've got some solder. Simply going to apply solder heat, solder and heat. So put some heat on that pad, put a bit of solder on. That's it, that's all we have to do. Then what we're going to do is put this on and see if we can get that to shuffle into it straight as possible. So again, I'm heating up the pad, heating up the solder, putting that on, releasing, seeing whether that's any good. That looks a bit wonky to me. Right, when it's all slightly off, but it's also slightly on, so I think that's probably going to be all right. Do I? Okay, I'm going to shift it a tiny bit. So I'm going to heat that up a little bit. I'm just going to move it a tiny bit. Okay, a bit more in the middle. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of better. So I think what I'll do is I will put some solder on this other leg on the opposite corner. Would be a good idea, I think. So I'm going to try not to melt the header. That's good. I'm just going to add a little bit more to this first leg here. Alright, both corners done, so I'm just going to go up one side and down the other, and that should all be super duper. Have to get my angle right, which might not be ideal for the camera, but I'm sure you'll get the gist of it. Just trying not to melt the header itself. It's also quite hard to get the iron on both the pad and the leg. So a lot of my solder is just going straight on the iron. big globules, as they say. Technical term. Now, as far as I can make out, that is solder on pad and solder on leg. And so is good enough for me. Right, so next we want the pokey one, pokey bit. What did I do with that? So with the Thonk kit, it sounds like you'll get a 7-pin header. I've got this big long one, so I'm going to have to cut this in half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just squeeze in between the two, and that should give me what I need. Not on that bit, this bit here, this bit here, this bit here. And that's going to go like that. Is it that way round or the other way round? Let's have a look. So solder the 7-pin pokey header so the pins face out the back on the opposite side of the PCB to the other header. Okay, so this way round, the opposite side, so that side, this is the opposite side. Pointing out there, so we're going to be able to stick the cables all down this bit here to the right bits. That sounds awesome. How do we do it? How do we do it? Well, I mean, I guess we just sort of turn it over. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be straight. I mean, nobody really cares, do they? Because it's not important. It's just going to go on individual cables. But I could prop it up with something. Can I prop it up on that just a little bit? Yeah. There we go. That'll do. I'm not that fussed, really. So try to heat the leg and the pad, or the ring, whatever you want to call it. Give it a bunch of solder. And let's see that that's all right. That's okay. See, it's not perfectly straight, but it'll do. I mean, I could possibly heat it and wobble it to get that straight. Do I care? No. I'm just going to get on with it. So solder the rest. It's all fine. That's all good. All good. So now we have to connect the two together. I think you can only do it the right way around. Connect the display, pushing the male pin securely into the female header. Like so. Nice. Nice. It could perhaps do with, you know, a supporting thing, some kind of a spacer that goes in here to keep it kind of, rather than the wobbliness. I think would be a nice additional feature. Otherwise, it's done. Just got to make the connections from here to the disting itself. Well, let me yank that out of the case and we'll have a look. So on here, what are we looking for? That's one expansion there. GT3, GT2, GT1. I don't know what any of those things mean. I'm going to have to go and look it up. GT4 is MIDI, apparently. So on the Disting X, the connections are mainly made to the FHX expansion header, with one connection to the ICSP header for power. Note that display draws its power through the Disting EX. Adding the display adds a tiny bit to the current draw. So let's get this down on here so we can see it. So we're talking about mostly GT2, which is here, and a little bit over here for power. It just says get on with it. Oh, okay. So we have things labelled here. I've got a whole bunch of the cables. So let's go. So I reckon power should probably be the red one, red cable for power. So I'm going to put that over here. That seems to go on the second one, GT1. Yeah. And okay, then on here, that's going to go to, I have no idea. I don't know. Well, what does it go to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, we'll work out. Oh, VDD. It says VDD. Okay, VDD. There. Got it. Right. So, the rest of the colours, do they matter? Well, no. Let's use black for ground. Just trying to keep some form of consistency here. So ground is this one here. Ground. Next up, I've got DC. DC, I'm going to use yellow, which is that third one there. That goes to DC on there. And I've got skilk, which I imagine is clock. That seems to have been brown. I'm just picking these out completely randomly. Clock, clock. Blue is going to be SDIN. That's the last one on this side. SDIN. Maybe we can move this back a little bit. See that going on. Weird green can be CS, which is number 3 on that side. CS. And then purple for reset. That goes into there. So there we have it. It's neat, isn't it? See, right, so how am I going to put this in my case? Because this is going to be in a 3U and that's going to be in a 1U. I'm going to have to take them all off in order to feed it all. Am I? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, so that's the connection. This is what it looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit kind of workshoppy, ad hoc. You don't feel like this is the sort of thing you're going to have going on in your performance case. But then I think ultimately the point of this, let's take those off like an idiot, is that this is for when you are configuring and setting up the disting. Once it's set, once you've saved it as a preset, which is particularly key, and I'll come to that, then you no longer need this, because you no longer really need to refer to anything, because it's just going to function and do exactly what it's supposed to. See, it's only in the exploration, it's only in the working out what you're doing, perhaps, that you might need a larger screen. Great. So we'll plug this back into the case and do it, and do that, and actually get something out of it. Actually get something out of the Disting EX. That's the plan. Good. However, before we do that, while I'm here at my desk, there's another thing to make, and that is this. This is the tiny MIDI Breakout. Now, there's a couple of different breakout options for MIDI for the disting, I believe. Why do you need MIDI? Well, because it can also do MIDI stuff, particularly if we're looking at it for a polyphonic synthesizer, a polyphonic sound source. Then playing it from modular via analog can be tricky, although I have a fantastic solution for that. But it might also be nice to play it as an instrument from a keyboard, and so having a MIDI breakout for it could be great. It also has some other things that MIDI might be useful for control, for I can't think of other things, but hey, let's build the MIDI breakout while we're sitting here, and we can have that as an additional extra. So here's the kit. Now again, Thonk do the kit for this. You might be able to buy and put together your own one separately. I have no idea, but Thonk do it. I'm sure other places might do something similar. Comes with quite a smart 2 HP little panel, for which I just about have enough room for, which is fantastic. Got a bunch of Thonky Conk patch sockets, a little PCB, 1 or 2 headers. Oh yeah, because it's going to have to connect to the back of the thing as well, isn't it? This isn't remotely complicated. No, okay. So the already unintelligible disting is starting to get out of hand in its complexity of connections. So that's great. But essentially all we're doing is soldering a few headers and some patch cables. So very, very easy. So I've got to break this up into 3-pin blocks. 2, 6. Great. Super. Did that. Place and solder the headers on the back of the PCB. Make sure they are flush. Make sure the headers are sitting on the back with the side with writing as shown below. So here's our PCB. That's got all the writing on. They want to be sticking up from there, because the other side I'm going to be sticking all the patch cables on. So these provide the connections, the pin connections to things on the disting itself. Okay, are we there? Are we there yet? Okay, all right, got them all in. Now, what am I going to do? I need to turn them all over. You know, I can hear people saying, hey, you know, use masking tape, whatever. Right, I'm going to try to do it just like this. Okay, all right, that went quite well. Now, again, these are just connecting to headers like this. They're not having to plug into something. You know, something that's already made. So actually how perpendicular they are doesn't matter. I think you should just solder them. I don't think you should even worry too much about. So obviously if you can get it flush, then all the better. So I'm going to put some solder on there. I'm just going to hold it delicately to see whether I can get that to stay. Put that on there. Just okay, so I've done a leg of each, and they all look pretty good to me. They look pretty good, pretty good. Let's do the rest. Lovely. So then put the green sockets on the opposite side, so you can see it on the screen print where they need to go. With this, you've got this little sticky outy leg here, and that goes into the one that's outside of the screen print, because that's kind of our, it's not kind of at all, it is our grounding pin. So you'll find that if you point these in to that and sort of push against it to get the other legs in, and then that kind of helps grip the whole thing in place. So the guide recommends putting the panel on first and securing it with the nuts, which is always a good idea, because if you solder these in as they are, you might get one a little bit skew-whiff, in which case then this is not going to fit on. So you're better off putting this on first. Now which way up does it go? So that looks like writing. So if we put the writing the same way around, like that, you dipstick, then that is probably going to be right. That way around. The header's on the edge is at the top edge with this, and at the other end with the writing you've got, it doesn't go all the way to the edge. You see that? The header's there, got that. So orientation is this way round with the leg pointing down the module. So secure it with some of the nuts, and then we're going to be soldering. Right, that looks perfectly fine to me. So connect the jumper wires according to the configuration that you need. Let's have a look. So it says we can find more information on the jumper configurations here. Let's see what that says. The here button doesn't actually do anything. Okay, in the build guide, Thonk, your link to things doesn't actually link anywhere. Let's go back to our tiny thing here. connection details and examples can be found here. Right, tiny MIDI breakout. So over on the Expert Sleepers website now. The examples below show the breakout connected to the uppermost socket as a MIDI input. So I don't quite understand what we're looking at the moment. Okay, so this lets us deal with type A and type B. See, I don't know whether I want type A or type B because it depends on which thing I've got. Because it all comes down to these, adapters ultimately. Do I want type A or type B? I don't remember. You know, I just plug these bloody things in until they sort of work. I think this one in particular is type A, so maybe we should just go with type A for the moment. Okay, so for type A, connect pins 1 and 2 from the attached module to the ring and tip pins respectively. Right, okay. I don't understand what it's telling me to do. So I have the disting here. Come back out again. I've got the MIDI connection here. I've got pins 1 to 4, I think. It says MIDI on it. Hold the MIDI thing with its rear facing you. The top of the PCB is the end where the connector header is right on the edge, so like this. Each connection header is above its corresponding jack. Orientated this way, the jack socket tip is the right pin. The ring is the center and the shield is the left. So we can see that actually, because the pokey one out here, that's the shield, and you can see the trace on the board is going to the left pin. And you can see that this one here is going to the middle pin and the tip is going to there. So good. It says you typically do not need to connect the shield pin. Alright. For type A, connect pins 1 and 2 from the attached module to the ring and tip respectively. From the attached module, I guess they're talking about the disting. So the fact that I've got 3 here together I think is not helpful, so I'm just going to peel one of these off, leaving me with 2 together, which I think is going to be more useful at this point. So I need to connect pins 1 and 2 on here. So here is my MIDI thing here, and that appears to be pin 1 at the top. So I'm going to go 1 and 2 on there, and that's going to go, so pin 1 is white. White is going to go to the ring, which is the center pin, and grey is going to go to the tip, which is there. That appears to be correct. And is that for MIDI in or MIDI out? I have no clue. So that's output. Type A output. So the top one appears to be output. The type A input, connect 3 and 4 to tip and ring respectively. So 3 and 4. See, that's the complete opposite. Oh, complex. Did I say it was complex? It's definitely complex. Definitely complex. Expert Sleepers, kind of on a whole, does suffer slightly from the I know what I'm talking about syndrome, which means they're not always awesome at explaining to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. So it says here, for the Disting EX, which is what this is, pin 1 is the top pin of the 4-way header. It's the 4-way header. This is the top, is pin 1. Pin 1 there. So pin 1 is this one here. See on the diagram here? That should be pin 1, and that's got that connected to an orange connection, which on here is going to the ring of the second lot, not the first lot. So that breakout picture is just wrong. Okay. Okay, mass confusion. Right, I understand where I've gone wrong now. So the examples below show the breakout connected with the uppermost socket as the MIDI input and the one below it as a MIDI output. So okay, so they say your first socket is output, second one is input. But then, no, the first one is input, second one is output. But then the way that it explains it, it then connects the output one first. So that's where I've been confused. So 1 and 2 on here, to make this output and this input, I'm just doing it the other way around, is to put them there. And now I'm going to match up with the breakout picture on the website. Great, that's awesome. So I'm going to put purple on there, and orange on there. Still using the same deal, and that is going to go to, so 3 and 4. 3 goes to the tip. 3 goes to the tip, which is orange. 4 goes to the ring, which in my case is purple. Alright, you got that? Uppermost is input, one below it is output. What are all these others for? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I guess it means I could configure all this down the bottom, because I mean, funnily enough, having this set up like this and having MIDI at the top here means that I'm going to have a MIDI plug and cable hanging out of here, when actually it would be better to have it hanging out the bottom, wouldn't it? So I might swap this entirely. Would that be alright? The 6 sockets can be shared amongst modules as needed. Yeah. So, alright, change of plan then. I'm going to put these, I'm going to swap all of this down to the bottom. So this way around. So I'm going to have input, because that's all really I'm going to be using, at the very, very bottom. So I'm going to take these two and just simply plug them onto there. And take these two, plug them onto there. So now on my, here I've got input right at the bottom, output there. That makes sense to me. Beautiful. Now how do I get the screen to work? I want to go to settings and then general. Let's try general. Okay, look, contrast, enable second display. It's currently on off. Oh, on. Turn the P. Turn X. See that? Okay, once you've selected it, turn P. Turn P. Don't press P. Turn P. Just going to reboot. See if that helps. Yes! There it is. There it is. Let's come back out. There it is. Look. Look. Flipping working. So the key thing to select it and then reboot, turn it on and off again, you know, whatever it is that works in that regard, that's what you need to do. Good, well that was easy. Bet you weren't expecting quite so much DIY when you bought a Disting EX and were hoping to get some use out of it. And I'm really sorry that this video is already so enormously long because of these bits and pieces I've had to do, but I felt very strongly that I needed to reflect the entire user experience of the Disting EX. And so this is part of that. Now, if you want to cope with a tiny little screen, that's fine. That's cool. Don't want to use MIDI? That's also fine. That's cool. Or do you want to buy it already built? That's also good. But hopefully that has been helpful in showing you how to get the fullness out of the Disting EX. Now, finally, we'll get on to showing you a bit about what it does.